The forest was dark and heavy with silence. Only the crackle of dry leaves under boots broke the still air. Far away, faint orange lights flickered between the trees. Torches, many of them. The hunters were coming. Their voices carried on the cold wind, low and harsh, like the growl of wolves hunting prey. Inside the small wooden cabin near the river, Nurse Lara sat on the floor, her breath quick and shallow. She pressed her back against the wall, clutching her basket of herbs as if it could protect her. But it was not herself she feared for. It was the great creature lying just a few feet away, the dragon, Kale. He was curled tightly on the cabin floor, his scales shimmering faintly even in the dim firelight. His broken wings stretched awkwardly across the wooden boards, bound with cloth and sticks she had tied days earlier. His breathing was slow, heavy, but his golden eyes were open, watching her, steady and calm even as danger closed in around them. Lara swallowed hard, staring at him. She had been tending to him for days now, hiding him here, trying to heal wounds she barely understood. She was only a nurse, not a warrior, not a magician, and certainly not someone meant to stand between a dragon and hunters armed with steel. Yet here she was. The sound of voices drew closer. She crawled to the small window, peering out into the forest. Shadows danced against the trees. There were at least 6 of them, no more. She could see shapes moving between the trunks, their torches burning bright. Men with weapons strapped to their backs, bows ready, spears in hand. Her heart thudded so loud she thought the hunters might hear it. She turned back toward Kale. "They are close," she whispered. Her voice shook despite her effort to stay calm. The dragon's eyes glowed faintly in the firelight. His voice entered her mind. Not through sound, but through thought, deep and steady. "I know. I can feel them." Lara gasped softly, still not fully used to hearing him in her head. Every time he spoke that way, it sent a shiver down her spine. "They'll find us," she said, trying not to panic. "They know you're here. What do we do?" Kale did not move. His injured wing was still too weak, his body too tired. Yet his gaze remained strong, almost regal. "Stay calm," his voice whispered in her mind. "Do not fear. I will protect you." Lara looked at him in disbelief. "You can barely stand. How will you protect either of us?" For the first time, she noticed something strange on his scales. As the fire flickered, she saw faint patterns etched into the green and gold, glowing softly like hidden embers. She leaned closer, eyes wide. They were not scratches or random marks. They were symbols. Intricate, sharp lines curved and joined, forming patterns across his side. They looked almost alive, pulsing faintly as if in rhythm with his breath. She reached out a trembling hand, brushing her fingers gently across one. It was warm, almost burning, but not painful. "Kale, what are these?" she whispered. His eyes shifted, following her touch. For a moment there was silence. Then his voice came again, slower this time, heavier. "They are my mark, the truth of what I am." Lara frowned, not understanding. "A mark? But they look like writing. Symbols. What do they mean?" Kale's gaze darkened. He did not answer. Outside, voices grew louder. "She went this way," a man called. "Tracks lead to the cabin," another voice shouted. Lara's blood turned cold. They knew. They were coming straight for them. She backed away from the window, her hands shaking. "They're almost here," she whispered. "We can't run. We can't fight them. What are we going to do?" The dragon's chest rumbled with a low growl, but his eyes remained calm, locked on hers. "Do not be afraid," he said. "Trust me." But Lara could not stop the fear twisting in her stomach. She moved quickly around the cabin, blowing out the fire so the light would not give them away. The small room fell into near darkness, only the faint glow from Kale's scales lighting the space. That glow caught her attention again, brighter now than before. The symbols seemed alive, reacting to something, maybe to danger, maybe to her fear. She stared at them, her mind racing. She had seen drawings like this before, old books her grandmother used to keep, filled with myths and legends. She remembered one story in particular. A tale of the Dragon Emperor. A ruler of dragons so powerful he needed no crown, for the marks on his scales were his seal of authority. It was said that wherever he walked, the world trembled, that humans once made pacts with him, until greed turned men against his kind. The story always ended the same: betrayal, war, blood. Lara's heart pounded. Could it be? Could Kale be? No, it was impossible. She was just a simple nurse. She had found an injured dragon by chance. Surely it could not be him. The sound of snapping branches snapped her out of thought. The hunters were here. She rushed back to Kale. "You must stay quiet," she begged. "If they find you, they'll kill you." His voice came again, firmer now. "If they find me, they will try, but they will not win." Suddenly, heavy footsteps crunched outside the cabin walls. The glow of torches spilled through the cracks in the wood. Men whispered, their words sharp and eager. "She's in there. Do you smell it? The beast is inside. The dragon. We'll be rich when we bring it down." Lara froze, her blood running cold. The dragon lifted his head, eyes narrowing, glowing faintly in the dark. The symbols across his body flared brighter, golden light dancing like fire. He looked every bit a king in that moment, even broken and wounded. Lara could hardly breathe. Her heart thundered in her chest as she realized the truth. The hunters were not after just any dragon. They were after him. They knew. The cabin door rattled suddenly, with straining under heavy blows. "Open up!" a voice roared. Another hunter laughed. "No need to ask. We'll break it down." Lara stumbled back, pressing herself against the wall. Her eyes darted to Kale, who remained calm, regal, glowing with quiet power. The hunters shouted again, and the door shook under their attack. Her pulse raced. This was it. They had been found. And then silence. The hunters had stopped. Their torches burned bright through the window cracks. Their shadows stretched across the cabin walls. They were right outside. Lara held her breath, her whole body trembling. The dragon's eyes locked with hers, steady, calm, unbroken. The world seemed to freeze in that moment. The hunters stood just outside the cabin door. The night outside the cabin was alive with the sound of heavy boots crunching the soil. Torches flickered, their glow seeping through the cracks in the wooden walls. Nurse Lara stood frozen, every breath sharp in her chest. The hunters were here, just beyond the door. The wood groaned as one of them pressed against it. "We know you're in there," a rough voice barked. "Come out and no one has to get hurt." No one had to get hurt? Lara almost laughed, but the sound would have given her away. These men had come with bows, spears, and chains. They weren't here for peace. They wanted Kale. The dragon lifted his head, eyes gleaming gold in the darkness. The strange symbols along his body pulsed brighter, like veins of fire beneath his scales. He didn't move, but his presence filled the cabin, heavy and commanding. Lara's knees shook. She whispered urgently, "They'll break down the door. What are you going to do?" Kale's voice echoed inside her head, calm yet sharp as steel. "Stay close to me. Do not run. No matter what happens, do not run." Her lips trembled. "They'll kill us both." No, Kale's thought voice was firm, unwavering. "They do not understand who I am." Before she could ask what he meant, the door rattled again. A heavy strike cracked the wood. The hunters grunted, preparing another blow. "We'll drag the beast out by its throat," one of them growled. Kale's eyes narrowed. The glowing marks across his scales blazed brighter now, filling the cabin with golden light. Lara shielded her eyes for a moment, heart hammering in her chest. She could not take her gaze away from him. He was no ordinary dragon, he was something more. The hunters struck again. The door groaned, splinters breaking loose. Lara could not stand still any longer. She ran to the dragon's side, her hand brushing against the glowing symbols. She flinched at the heat, but forced herself to press harder. "Kale, tell me the truth. What are these marks? What are you?" The dragon's chest rose and fell with a deep rumble, his gaze fixed on the door. Yet his words slipped into her mind, quiet and heavy. "I am the last son of the Emperor's line." Lara's breath caught. The old stories, the legends whispered by her grandmother, came rushing back. The dragon emperor who ruled the skies. The betrayal that ended the age of dragons. The line thought lost forever. You, she stammered. You're. The door burst inward with a thunderous crack. Wood splintered across the floor. Hunters surged into the cabin, weapons drawn, torches flaring bright. There, one shouted. The dragon! Lara stumbled back, pressing herself against Kale's massive body. The hunters spread out in a half-circle, spears and chains glinting in the firelight. Their eyes were wide with greed, locked on the glowing marks that covered his scales. One man whispered, almost in awe, "By the stars! It's true, the Emperor's mark." Another snarled, "Then we're richer than kings. Take him down." They moved as one, stepping closer, chains rattling, bows drawn. Lara cried out, "No, leave him. He's hurt. He's not what you think." The leader laughed harshly. "He's exactly what we think. A prize. And he belongs to us now." In that moment, Kale rose. His wings trembled, broken but still vast, filling the small cabin with shadow. His golden eyes burned like fire, and the marks along his body erupted in light so bright the hunters staggered back. "I belong to no one." His voice thundered in Lara's mind, and perhaps in theirs too, for several men gasped, clutching their heads. A pulse of energy rippled outward from him, shaking the cabin walls. The torches flickered wildly. The hunters hesitated, fear flashing in their eyes. "Hold steady," their leader barked. "He's weak. Look at his wing. Don't let him scare you." But Lara saw the truth. Weak or not, Kale was dangerous. Not because of teeth or claws, but because of what he was, the last son of a lost dynasty, marked with power no hunter could understand. The men lunged forward. Chains clattered, spears thrust. Lara screamed. Kale's body glowed brighter still, the symbols alive like rivers of molten gold. In a single motion, he struck the ground with his tail. The floorboards shuddered, splitting beneath the force. A shockwave blasted outward, knocking several hunters off their feet. One man crashed into the wall, his torch falling and sputtering on the ground. Another dropped his spear, clutching his ears as Kale's roar filled the cabin. A sound so deep and furious it shook the very air. Lara dropped to her knees, hands over her head, but she couldn't stop staring. The dragon before her was no wounded beast. He was a king disguised as prey, and the hunters were ants before him. Yet Kale staggered, his strength faltering. The broken wing dragged heavily, blood seeping through the bindings Lara had tied. His body trembled under the weight of his own power. The leader of the hunters saw it too. "He's bleeding," he shouted. "Don't stop now. Finish it." The others scrambled to their feet, rallying. Arrows hissed through the air. A spear tip glanced off Kale's scales with a sharp clang. He roared again, snapping his tail, sending another man flying into the corner. But Lara could see it. He could not keep this up. His strength was fading. "No," she whispered. She pushed herself to her feet, heart racing. "No, you can't fight them alone." Without thinking, she ran to the nearest torch and snatched it from the floor. Firelight burned her vision, heat licking at her skin, but she didn't care. She swung it wildly at the hunters closing in. "Stay back!" she cried, her voice breaking. "Stay away from him." The men laughed, ducking easily. One shoved her aside, sending her stumbling. She hit the wall hard, pain shooting through her side. But her defiance bought Kale a moment. A moment he seized. The glowing marks on his scales flared one last time, brighter than ever, blinding the hunters in a golden blaze. He rose to his full height, towering in the cramped cabin, his eyes burning like suns. "Leave now," his voice thundered, "or be ashes before dawn." The force of his words rippled through the men. Several dropped their weapons, trembling. One bolted for the door. Another followed. But the leader stood his ground, eyes wide with greed and fury. "You can't scare me, beast. You're broken. You're dying. And you're mine." He lunged, chain in hand. Kale snapped his head forward, jaws closing around the chain with a sound like steel breaking. His eyes flared gold, and the chain melted to slag in his mouth. The leader stumbled back, horror dawning across his face. Lara crawled to Kale's side, clutching his scales. The heat from the marks burned against her palm, but she did not let go. "Stop," she whispered to the hunters. "Please, you don't understand. If you kill him, you'll bring down something far worse than your greed." But they did not listen. The cabin echoed with the sound of men shouting, weapons clashing, dragon roaring. And outside, the forest grew still. Too still. Something else was listening, watching. Lara felt it then, a strange chill sliding down her spine. This fight was only the beginning. The cabin smelled of smoke and blood. Broken wood lay scattered across the floor, and the hunters groaned where they had fallen. Some fled into the night, stumbling through the trees, but a few still lingered, shaken yet unwilling to give up. Lara pressed her back against Kale's side, her chest heaving. His scales were hot beneath her palms, glowing with the strange golden symbols that refused to fade. She wanted to believe they had won, that the hunters would run and never return. But deep in her heart, she knew it was not over. The leader still stood in the shattered doorway, his face twisted with anger and fear. He spat to the side, gripping the broken remains of his chain. "You think this is finished? No, this is just the start. We know what you are now. The whole world will know. And when they come, beast, when they come, you won't escape." His eyes flicked toward Lara, cold and calculating. "And the woman? She'll pay the price for hiding you." Before Kale could move, the man slipped into the trees, vanishing into the night. The silence that followed was heavy. Only Kale's labored breathing filled the room. His golden eyes dimmed slightly, the glow along his body fading to a dull ember. "You're hurt?" Lara whispered, crouching beside him. She pulled away the crude bindings on his wing, revealing deep wounds where blood seeped through. "You can't keep fighting like this." Kale lowered his head, his voice rumbling inside her mind, weary but unbroken. "They will return, stronger, in greater number. They will not stop until they have me in chains or in pieces." Lara swallowed hard, her hands trembling as she pressed cloth against his wound. "Then we run. We have to leave the cabin. If they bring more men, they'll burn this place down with us inside." The dragon's eyes shifted toward her, sharp and unyielding. "Run where? The world beyond these trees is filled with hunters and kings who would sell my blood for crowns. The mark upon me calls to them like fire in the dark." She paused, staring at the glowing symbols across his scales. They pulsed faintly, as if alive. "Then we hide you, until you heal, until you're strong again." Kale gave a low rumble that might have been laughter, though it was laced with bitterness. "Hide an emperor? In a cabin? In the woods? You are brave, nurse, but even bravery has its limits." A crash echoed from deep within the forest. Lara's head snapped up. The night air trembled with distant shouts. The hunters were regrouping. More torches flickered in the distance, weaving through the trees. Her heart pounded. "We don't have time to argue. You can walk, can't you? At least move." Kale shifted his massive body, dragging his injured wing. The floorboards groaned as he rose, filling what was left of the cabin. His golden eyes gleamed with pain, but also with resolve. "Yes, I can move. Not far, not fast, but I will not fall here." Lara grabbed her satchel, stuffing it with herbs, bandages, and what little food remained. Then she turned to Kale. "Then we leave now, before they trap us inside." The dragon bent low, lowering his massive head until his golden eyes met hers. For a moment, Lara felt the weight of his gaze pressing into her soul. Then, with surprising gentleness, he said, "Climb onto my back." Her eyes widened. "What? No, I'll slow you down." "They will aim for you first," Kale replied firmly. "On my back, you are safer than on the ground. Now climb." She hesitated only a moment before slinging her satchel over her shoulder and scrambling onto his back. His scales burned faintly against her palms, but she clung to them, finding her balance between the ridges of his shoulders. Kale pushed through the ruined doorway, splintering the frame further. The night air hit them cold and sharp. The forest stretched before them, alive with shadows and torchlight. The hunters had not waited long. As soon as Kale emerged, shouts filled the air. Arrows hissed from the trees, striking the earth and wood around them. Don't let him escape. Bring the chains. Kill the nurse if you must. Just bring me the beast. Lara's heart leapt into her throat. She ducked low against Kale's scales as he surged forward, each step shaking the ground. His broken wing dragged painfully, but his strength was still terrible. He crashed through the underbrush, knocking trees aside, his roar splitting the night. Fire burst from his jaws. Not a great torrent, but a blazing arc that lit the forest in flames. Shadows danced wildly as hunters screamed, scattering before the inferno. Lara clung tightly, her eyes wide as the flames roared past. She had never seen such power, even wounded. If this was what Kale could do in his weakness, what would he be capable of at full strength? But the hunters did not scatter for long. They regrouped quickly, flanking from the sides. Nets and chains glimmered in the firelight as they tried to cut off Kale's path. They're everywhere, Lara shouted. They knew you'd run this way, Kale growled, his thoughts sharp in her mind. Then we cut a new path. He veered sharply, crashing through a dense wall of trees. Branches snapped like twigs under his weight. Lara shielded her face as leaves and splinters whipped past her. Behind them, the hunters gave chase, their shouts echoing through the forest. Dogs barked in the distance, their howls joining the chaos. The night became a blur of fire and shadows. Torches blazed among the trees, arrows rained from above, and still Kale pressed forward, each step filled with raw determination. Lara clung to him, her knuckles white, her breath ragged. She wanted to scream, to cry, but she forced herself to stay quiet, to stay strong. If she faltered, Kale faltered. And if Kale fell, they were both dead. At last, they broke into a small clearing. Moonlight spilled across the grass, silver and cold. Kale slowed, his breath heavy, smoke curling from his jaws. His body trembled beneath Lara's grip. "We can't keep running like this," she whispered desperately. "They'll chase us until we collapse." Kale lifted his head, his golden eyes scanning the treeline. His voice filled her mind again, softer this time. "Then we make our stand. Fire against shadow, blood against greed. If I fall, I will not fall fleeing like prey. I will fall as an emperor." Lara's throat tightened. She looked at him, this broken, bleeding dragon who still spoke like a king, and something inside her shifted. She could not let him die here. "No," she said firmly. "You won't fall. Not tonight. Not while I'm with you." The forest around them rustled. More torches appeared, closing in from every side. The hunters were surrounding the clearing. Their leader's voice rang out across the night, loud and cruel. "There he is, the Emperor's heir. Kill the nurse and bind the beast. His blood will buy us empires." Lara's heart pounded. She looked down at Kale's glowing marks, her fingers brushing the golden lines across his scales. For a moment, she swore the symbols responded to her touch, flaring brighter. The hunters closed in, shadows stretching long under the torchlight. Kale's chest swelled. His eyes blazed gold. The clearing held its breath. Fire and shadows were about to meet. The clearing burned with torchlight. Dozens of hunters stepped out from the trees, their faces sharp with greed. Spears and chains gleamed. Dogs barked, straining at their leashes. The air stank of sweat, smoke, and hunger for blood. Lara sat on Kale's back, clutching his scales with both hands. Her heart raced so fast it felt like it would burst. All around her, shadows moved closer. There was no way out this time. They were surrounded. The leader of the hunters stepped forward. His face glistened with sweat, and his eyes were fixed on Kale's glowing marks. "The Emperor's heir," he said with a cruel smile. "I didn't believe the stories, but there you are, shining like gold in the dark. He lifted his chain, rattling it for all to hear. Bring him down. Kill the girl if you must. Tonight we claim the prize of ages. The hunters roared their agreement, stepping closer. Kale's chest rose, his breath deep and heavy. Smoke curled from his jaws, his golden eyes narrowing into slits. The strange marks along his scales burned brighter, filling the clearing with a faint glow. But Lara could feel him trembling beneath her. His broken wing dragged against the ground, blood dripping into the grass. His strength was slipping away. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Kale, you can't fight them all. You'll die out here." The dragon's head tilted slightly, his thoughts brushing against her mind with a strange calmness. "If I fall, I will not fall in silence. Let them know who it is they hunt." He shifted, planting his claws into the earth. His golden eyes swept across the hunters, burning into each of them. Then his voice, deep, commanding, impossible to ignore, echoed through their minds. "Hear me, mortals. You chase me for coin, for crowns, for chains of iron. But do you even know whose blood you seek?" The hunters faltered, glancing uneasily at one another. Some gripped their weapons tighter, others loosened their hold. The leader sneered, "You're just a beast, a dragon like any other. Your tricks won't save you." Kale's marks flared, blazing like rivers of fire. His roar shook the trees, silencing the dogs, chilling every man's heart. "I am no beast. I am the blood of the first flame. I am son of the emperor who ruled the skies. I am heir to the throne you betrayed." Lara gasped, even though he had whispered it to her before. Hearing him declare it aloud was different. The truth rolled over the clearing like thunder. The hunters whispered among themselves. Some looked shaken, others even afraid. But the leader snarled, raising his chain high. "A king of the past means nothing today. Your empire is dust. You're nothing but a wounded animal, waiting for the butcher's knife." Lara shouted, her voice breaking. "Don't you understand? If what he says is true, killing him will bring ruin on all of you. His kind." Her words were drowned out by the hunter's roar as they surged forward. Chains flew through the air, nets spread wide, spears thrust forward. Kale reared up, unleashing a blast of fire that lit the night sky. The flames roared across the clearing, scattering hunters in every direction. Screams filled the air as men dove aside, some dropping their weapons in terror. Yet the fire was not endless. The blaze dimmed, leaving Kale panting, his body shaking with the effort. The glow of his marks flickered weakly, as though even they were straining to hold their light. Lara slid down from his back, landing hard on the grass. She scrambled to his wounded wing, pressing her hands against the bleeding gash. "Stay with me, Kale. Don't let them take you." He lowered his head, his golden eyes softening as they met hers. "You should run, Lara. Leave me. If they take me, they will not care for you. Escape while you still can." Her jaw tightened, tears stinging her eyes. "No, I won't leave you. I don't care if you're a king or an emperor or just a broken dragon. I'm not leaving you." For a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them, her hands bloody against his scales, his great body trembling, the golden marks pulsing weakly under her touch. And then something strange happened. The symbols flared brighter where her palms pressed, glowing more fiercely, almost answering her. The light spread across Kale's body, stronger than before. Kale's eyes widened slightly. "You awaken them." Before Lara could ask what he meant, the hunter struck again. Nets tangled around Kale's legs. Chains whipped through the air, clamping around his neck. He roared, thrashing, tearing men off their feet, but more kept coming. Lara grabbed a fallen spear and swung it wildly at the men closest to her. "Get away from him!" she screamed. One hunter raised his blade toward her. Kale's eyes snapped to the man, fury blazing, and a torrent of fire exploded from his jaws, engulfing him in flame. The others stumbled back in shock. But the leader pressed forward, his face twisted with obsession. He leapt onto Kale's back, driving a hooked blade deep into the dragon's shoulder. Kale roared in pain, thrashing violently. Lara was thrown to the ground, her vision spinning. She scrambled to her knees just in time to see the leader raise the blade again. "No!" she screamed, running forward. She grabbed the man's arm with all her strength, pulling it away. He snarled, shoving her aside, but her interference bought Kale the moment he needed. The dragon twisted, slamming his body into a tree. The leader cried out, crushed between scale and bark, before falling limp to the ground. The clearing fell silent. The remaining hunters froze, staring at their fallen leader. Kale stood tall, his golden eyes blazing once more. The chains that bound him glowed red-hot under his power before snapping apart, melting into useless shards. The nets burned away in fire. Smoke curled from his jaws as he roared into the night sky, a sound so terrible and magnificent that even the bravest hunters turned and fled into the forest. Only silence remained, broken by the crackle of flames and the sound of Kale's heavy breathing. Lara stumbled to his side, her body shaking. She reached up to touch his scales again, the glowing marks pulsing warmly under her hand. "You're still alive," she whispered, almost in disbelief. Kale lowered his head, his golden eyes fixed on her. "Because of you." She shook her head quickly, tears streaking her dirt-stained face. "No, you're stronger than all of them." "No," Kale replied softly. "I was broken, but your touch woke the mark. You carry something I cannot yet name. The bond of fire, the bond of emperors." Lara's heart pounded, her mind spinning with his words. A bond? With him? What did it mean? But before she could ask, the sound of distant horns echoed through the night. Not hunters this time, something greater, heavier, more organized. Kale's golden eyes turned toward the sound, narrowing. The kingdoms know now. The hunt is no longer in the shadows. Armies will come. Lara shivered, fear crawling through her veins. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "Then what do we do?" The dragon spread his broken wings, the golden marks blazing across his body like rivers of fire. Despite his wounds, his presence filled the clearing like a rising storm. "We do not run anymore. It is time the world remembered the Emperor's truth." The night sky burned with the glow of fire arrows. Shadows moved across the trees as the hunters surrounded the cabin from every side. Their war drums echoed like a heartbeat in the dark, deep and heavy, shaking the ground beneath Lara's feet. The little wooden cabin that once felt safe now seemed like a cage ready to collapse under the storm of steel and fire. Lara pressed her back to the wall, clutching the bag of herbs and small tools she had gathered. Her hands trembled, not from fear of dying, but from the thought of losing Kale. She had seen his wounds slowly healing, seen his strength grow day by day, and felt the weight of the strange glowing mark across his scales. He was more than a wounded creature. He was a symbol of power, a forgotten emperor hidden away in the woods. Kale's eyes burned faintly in the shadows of the cabin. His breathing was heavy, the rumble of a storm building in his chest. His broken wings still hung low, not yet healed enough to fly. Smoke drifted from his nostrils as if fire was ready to break loose. "Leave me," Kale's deep voice echoed inside Lara's mind. It wasn't spoken out loud. It was that strange whisper that connected his thoughts to hers. "They came for me, not you. Run while you can." Lara's heart twisted. She shook her head sharply. "I will not leave. I swore to heal you. I swore to stay." Kale's glowing mark pulsed faintly on his chest. His eyes narrowed. "Your courage will kill you." "Maybe," Lara whispered, her voice steady, "but at least I won't live knowing I abandoned you." Outside, the hunters shouted to each other. Wood cracked as they rolled a war machine into place. Something massive, something with iron wheels and a great crossbow mounted on top. The creak of ropes and the click of metal filled the air. "They brought siege weapons," Kale rumbled. "For a cabin." "They're afraid of you," Lara said softly, her eyes flashing with determination. Kale lowered his head. Smoke thickened in the cabin. "They should be." The hunters launched the first attack. A heavy bolt smashed into the wooden wall, sending splinters flying across the room. Lara ducked, covering her head, but Kale stood tall, his scales shielding him from the wooden shards. Another bolt came, shaking the cabin. Flames followed as hunters shot burning arrows onto the roof. The smell of smoke filled the air. The roof began to crackle as fire spread. "We can't stay inside," Lara coughed, her throat burning. She grabbed her pouch of herbs and reached for a jar of thick green paste she had made earlier. Smearing it onto rags, she stuffed them into small clay pots. "What are you doing?" Kale asked. "Slowing them down," Lara said. She lit one of the pots with the burning roof, then tossed it out the window. It exploded in thick white smoke, clouding the hunter's view. Cries of alarm rose from outside. "Smoke!" one shouted. "Can't see!" another yelled. Kale tilted his head, almost amused. "You fight like a soldier, not a healer." "I fight because I don't want to die," Lara snapped back. Her hands kept moving, preparing more smoke bombs. Her face was streaked with sweat and ash, but her eyes stayed fierce. The hunters pressed harder. They crashed against the door with heavy rams. The cabin shook. The wooden beams began to split. Kale lowered his body, his chest rising, fire glowing inside his throat. Lara could feel the heat like a furnace. "They will break through soon," he said. "Then burn them," Lara answered. The door burst open with a thunderous crack. Hunters in dark armor poured inside, their swords flashing in the firelight. Kale roared. The sound shattered the night, shaking trees and earth alike. Flames burst from his mouth, sweeping across the doorway. Hunters screamed as fire swallowed them. Their armor glowed red, their cries fading into ash. But more came. From every side, arrows flew into the cabin, striking walls, floor, and even Kale's thick scales. He flinched, blood seeping from a fresh wound. "Lara!" Kale roared in her mind. "Stay behind me!" She obeyed, ducking low, throwing smoke pots whenever she saw movement. Each burst blinded the hunters, buying seconds of life. Kale's fire grew stronger with every breath. He blasted the siege weapon, turning it into a ball of molten iron. Hunters scattered in terror. Some still charged, screaming battle cries, but the dragon's wrath crushed them. His claws tore the ground. His tail shattered trees. His flames burned paths into the forest. But it was not enough. His wing was broken. His body was still weak. Every blast of fire drained him. Every movement shook his wounds. Lara saw him stagger. "No!" she cried, rushing to his side. She pressed herbs against his bleeding wound, ignoring the chaos around her. "Don't stop, Kale. You can't stop now." His glowing mark pulsed again, brighter, almost alive. It spread across his chest and neck, burning like golden fire under his scales. Hunters froze for a moment, staring in fear. "The Emperor's seal," one whispered. "It's true." Kale raised his head, his eyes blazing like suns. "Yes," he thundered, his voice shaking the earth. "I am Emperor of Dragons." The hunters faltered. Some dropped their weapons and ran into the woods. But others, too devoted or too foolish, charged forward. Kale drew in the deepest breath yet. His chest glowed white-hot. Fire erupted, not in a single stream, but in a wave that spread across the battlefield, igniting trees, armor, and sky itself. The forest became a sea of flames. Lara shielded her face, feeling the heat scorch her skin. But she did not run. She stood at Kale's side, her heart hammering. For the first time, she wasn't looking at a wounded creature she had to heal. She was standing beside a king reborn, a storm of fire breaking free from chains. Hunters screamed and vanished into the inferno. The last war machine melted into twisted iron. The cabin collapsed into burning rubble. When the flames finally eased, silence fell. The night was filled only with crackling fire and the smell of ash. Bodies lay scattered, their armor glowing in the embers. Kale stood tall, smoke rising from his nostrils, his mark glowing like a crown of fire across his chest. His wounds still bled, but his spirit blazed brighter than ever. Lara touched his side gently, her hands trembling. "You did it," she whispered. "No," Kale rumbled. lowering his head close to her. We did. But even as she smiled, a cold dread settled in her chest. That fire, that mark, it had not just scared hunters. It had sent a signal. Far away, across mountains and skies, others would have seen it. Others would come. The battle was not over. It had only begun. And Lara knew, deep in her heart, that standing beside Kale meant stepping into a war greater than anything she had ever imagined. The sun rose over the forest, casting pale light across the charred trees. Smoke curled in the morning air, mixing with the scent of ash and burnt earth. The battlefield of the night before was quiet now, but the tension remained. Every rustle of leaves, every distant bird call seemed amplified, as if the forest itself waited for what would come next. Lara knelt beside Kale, her hands brushing over his scales. His golden eyes were open, burning with a quiet fire. His wing was still broken, but the glow of the Emperor's mark pulsed steadily across his chest, as if feeding strength into his body. She could feel it, a warmth that went beyond heat, something ancient, powerful, and alive. "We need to move," Kale whispered into her mind, his voice calm but heavy. "The hunters were only the beginning. Others will follow. Those who know of the Emperor's blood will come for me." Lara swallowed hard, gripping his scales. "Then we leave. We find a place where no one can reach us." Kale shook his massive head. "No. Running will not save us. My mark has been seen. Cannot hide. But we can fight, together." The first sound came from the treetops. The beating of wings. Larger, darker than any bird, shadows moved over the clearing. Lara's heart skipped a beat. Dragons? Or more hunters? A voice rang out in the distance, cold and commanding. "Kale, the world remembers. The throne must be reclaimed." Kale's eyes narrowed. "It's them, my kin. They have come." From the shadows emerged figures, dragons taller and wider than any human could imagine. Their scales glimmered in silver, gold, and midnight blue. Their wings stretched wide, catching the morning light. They circled above, calling to one another in a sound that shook Lara's very bones. Kale shifted his weight, dragging his broken wing. "They see the mark. They know I survived." Lara stepped closer, placing her hands on his side. "You can do this. I've seen what you are capable of. You're the Emperor. They will follow your lead." A sudden roar ripped through the clearing. Kale's voice this time, louder, stronger. The marks on his scales flared, golden fire surging along his back and neck. The other dragons tilted their heads, eyes glowing with recognition. Some landed softly in the clearing, while others hovered, wings thrumming like storms. The hunters who had survived the previous night stumbled into the open, only to freeze in terror. Their leader, a man still clutching a broken sword, tried to rally them. "Hold your ground. We will take him. For coin, for glory." But it was too late. Kale reared up, his broken wing trembling, and let out a roar that split the sky. Golden fire shot from his jaws, lighting the ground and sending the hunters running. The smaller dragons joined him, flames and tail strikes tearing through their ranks. Spears and chains melted before they even touched the Emperor's kin. Lara ducked behind a fallen tree, her heart racing, watching the incredible power unfold. She had never imagined anything like this. Dragons fighting together, coordinated, intelligent, unstoppable. The hunters screamed and fled, their war cries swallowed by the roar of the dragons. Kale lowered himself, wings still trembling, and looked at her. "Come." She ran to him, sliding between his legs. The heat from his body was immense, but it no longer frightened her. She pressed against his side. "They're gone, right?" "For now," he replied. His golden eyes softened, resting on her. "But the world knows. Others will come. They will test us, Lara." She nodded. "Then we'll be ready. Together." The dragons circled above, their calls echoing through the forest like a symphony of thunder. Kale spread his wings, each movement deliberate, powerful. Lara held on tightly, feeling the surge of strength as his wings lifted, even partially healed. "We fly," she whispered. Yes. The Emperor's voice was calm, but there was fire behind it. It is time the world sees the Emperor's return. With a deep inhale, Kale launched himself into the sky. His wings beat slowly at first, then faster, catching the wind. Lara clung to his neck, heart hammering, as the forest fell away beneath them. The other dragons followed, forming a circle around the Emperor and his human companion. The hunters who survived the night stumbled back, staring into the sky. Their screams echoed in terror. No army, no weapon could match what they were seeing. An Emperor reborn, leading the greatest dragons of the world. Lara looked down at the forest below, at the smoke rising from the burned clearing. She realized then that nothing would ever be the same. Not for the humans, not for the dragons, not for her. The bond she shared with Kale was a connection that bridged worlds, a force stronger than fear or death. Hold on tight, Kale's voice whispered. The journey has only begun. They soared over mountains, rivers, and forests, the morning sun glinting off Kale's golden scales. The glowing mark pulsed with each beat of his wings, a light that told the world. The Emperor had returned. Lara's hair whipped around her face, her heart pounding with a mix of fear, awe, and excitement. She had healed a dragon, yes, but she had also helped awaken a legend. And now, she would ride beside him into the future, into battles and adventures beyond anything she had imagined. Far below, the hunters fled, their minds shattered by what they had witnessed. Whispers spread through villages and towns, stories of the golden dragon, the Emperor reborn, and the human who dared to stand by his side. Kale let out a roar, not of anger, but of triumph. His wings stretched wide, catching the light of the rising sun. Lara felt the wind lift her, and with it, a sense of destiny. She smiled, holding on tight. Let's show them who you really are, she said. Kale's golden eyes glimmered with pride and power. Yes, it is time the world remembers the Emperor of Dragons, and the human who dared to believe. Together, they flew higher, the wind roaring past, fire blazing in the sky, and the future wide open before them. The legends were real. The Emperor had returned, and the world would never forget.